Hey, welcome to the class. Happy Saturday. I hope you are enjoying your weekend and it's the start of obviously the weekend and I hope you had a good week. Today we continue with the similar structure of the free class. It's a good opportunity for you to learn some English for free, and for me it's a good opportunity as well to know, grow online, and especially during the pandemic it's a good opportunity to start this initiative. So we started in January and today we continue. So it has been a good few months and I hope you are learning a lot, and today we will continue with the same routine. Hopefully there is no big problem with the connection. This week has been really poor with the connection. The quality of the connection has been really bad. I don't know the problem. It's possible I changed the laptop last week. It's also possible I changed location, but I'm continuing to change the settings and hopefully we can find a solution and hopefully the connection will be good today and the connection will be okay. If the connection continues to be bad, next week we have the possibility to do the free class directly on Zoom, or the second possibility is directly on YouTube. So if the connection continues to be bad, we will have other solutions. Okay, so as I said, we will continue today more or less the same as yesterday. On the left, you can see the plan for this week. So today is the last day of week 14, and next week structure will be very similar. In the morning at 9 o'clock, we have a speaking group to chat and just to practice conversation with different people, and it's a good opportunity for you to meet new people, number one. Number two, to practice English, and I can help with corrections and vocabulary in relation to the conversation. At 11:15, the plan is to continue with the free classes at this time, and hopefully they will benefit you. And yes, I understand it's difficult. Yes, sometimes it's very hard to continue watching the classes, but sometimes you can follow recorded and also you can attend live. But hopefully the classes will help everybody. People have different levels, but I try to keep this in mind, and still I hope you can benefit from the class. Also, we have specific webinars or different classes every day at 4 o'clock, and that's the plan next week, to continue with specific webinars with exam preparation and also different topics. For example, Monday we have grammar, and Tuesday is maybe flexible, and Friday is in theory business webinar, but we can adapt and it can be flexible depending on your choice. Today at 1 o'clock, when we finish this class, we will begin a webinar dedicated to the level B2 exams in English, the first certificate in Cambridge, and the Escuela Oficial de Idiomas also level B2. So that is the plan today at maybe 1 o'clock, but it's possible we start a little early as well. I think we have one or two people confirmed, and if you want to join, just contact me and I can send you the details. Okay, so that's the plan for next week, very similar compared to this week. And let's just check that we are live. Okay, very good. I think this is working very good, and fingers crossed it will continue. So this document, most of you of course are familiar with this document. This is the basic document. It's the base of English, and for me it's very important during my classes that you are familiar with the terms, that you are familiar with the technical vocabulary in relation to English. And this page shows the technical vocabulary. It shows the technical terms that are necessary for you to be aware of, because during the class I mention frequently these vocabulary. Okay, so there are subtitles available. If you have difficulty to understand me, you can select the subtitles on Facebook Live and hopefully you can understand me better. So this is just a little introduction. After the introduction, we will continue with an article. So here is an article from today in relation to a volcano that has erupted in the Caribbean. So the vocabulary today is dedicated to this article, and we can look at the text, we can analyze the vocabulary, and this is the intention of today's class. But first, I want to just briefly explain the three important sections. The first section is use of English, and this section, in my opinion, is the most important. If you are a beginner, if you are intermediate, if you are an expert, it does not matter. This document is the same for everybody, and this is the base, this is the foundation. It's the same for other English classes, it's the same for other English schools, it's the same for other English teachers. This document contains practically all the important information in relation to English. So, use of English, we have different accents and different dialects. When you travel, when you meet people from different parts of the world, the English is very different. For example, in Ireland, we have a particular accent. In England, they have a particular accent. Scotland, New Zealand, Australia, the United States. So English is very difficult to understand in different parts of the world, depending on accents and depending on dialects. So for me, that's probably the most important issue to keep in mind when you are learning English. The second area are phrasal verbs. So a phrasal verb is very unique to English. Basically, it's the verb plus a preposition combination with a second significance. So phrasal verbs are so important in English. We have thousands of phrasal verbs in English and we use them all the time, and they can change the significance of a sentence completely. So they are very, very important. Similarly, idioms like expressions, which in Spanish is frases hechas. So expressions and idioms are massive and very important in English, and again, we use them all the time, and we have thousands of idioms and thousands of expressions. Conversation. So when you practice English, when you learn English, the key probably is to practice conversation. You need to try to find somebody to speak English with, and hopefully somebody can correct you and somebody can advise you in relation to the improvement for conversation. Pronunciation is very tricky in English, and we have some words that are very, very difficult to pronounce. They are irregular in pronunciation, and during the class, I try to identify and try to focus on the difficult words for pronunciation, because this will help you, and this is the objective of my class. Okay. Tenses. So when you speak in English, we use different times and we use different tenses. So these are the key concepts. These are the most important concepts in relation to the tenses when we speak English. For example, the simple, present simple, past simple, future simple. We have a lot of irregular verbs in the past simple, and this is really problematic. This is really difficult. Your job is to learn and to be aware of all the past simple irregular verbs. We have the present simple, past simple, and future simple. Similarly, we have the present continuous, when you do the action continuously in the present, past continuous, and future continuous. For example, I am eating, I was eating, I will be eating. Okay, so they are the continuous tenses, the simple tenses, and the third regular common tense is the perfect. We have the present perfect and the past perfect, but also the future perfect. And the present perfect is generally constructed subject, extra auxiliary verb have, plus the participle of the verb. And the participle is the third column in school. When you learn in school, you normally learn the three columns: go, went, gone. The third column is the participle we use in relation to the present perfect and the past perfect. One example: I have eaten my breakfast this morning. It's finished, it's completed, but it is related and relevant to the present because at the moment I am not hungry. I have eaten my breakfast. The past perfect is finished, it's completely finished, but usually we use the past perfect before another action in the past simple. I had eaten my breakfast before my friend contacted me. So that's the difference, little difference between the present perfect and the past perfect. The future perfect is possible: I will have eaten my dinner before my friend contacts me. So the simple, continuous, and perfect are really so important, so ubiquitous, and they're a part of English in every situation. They are the three very, very important ones. The next idea or the next concept is the infinitive. So in English, the infinitive is normally with to hear, to go, to drink, to eat, to have. This is the infinitive. And during the class, frequently I mention the infinitive, and it's a big, big concept in English. Also the conditionals. In English, we have the zero, first, second, third, and mixed conditionals. And in the book, it's a little bit heavy. In the theory, it's a bit depressing, it's a bit heavy, and it's a bit technical in the book. But in reality, in my opinion, it's less strict. In conversation, the rules are less strict. Basically, it depends on the word if and the different tense. But of course, if you want to pass exams, if you want to really impress, it is necessary that you understand the theory in relation to the conditionals. But as I said, in conversation, it's a little more flexible and a little less strict. Okay, so basically, if it rains today, I will not go to the city centre. If I met my friend yesterday, I would have asked about his family. Okay, they are the most important. Another final, advanced, important tense is the active and the passive. This concept, basically the active is the normal structure, subject, verb, object. I eat chocolate. That's the typical structure, active. And the passive is created when you change the position. The chocolate, introduce another verb to be. The chocolate is participle of the original verb eaten by me. So you change the position of the subject and the object. You introduce an extra auxiliary verb to be and the participle of the original verb. That's very advanced. It's very frequent. It's very fluent. We use the active and the passive very, very frequently, and it's a big part of English. The other grammar concepts I mentioned in the class are here. So this list is very important because during the class I mention these terms frequently. The noun. What is a noun? It's a person, a place, or a thing. In Espanol, substantivo. Every noun, you need an article. And generally we have two articles, a house or the house. Indefinite article or definite article. Okay, so that's important. The article, the noun, and the adjective. So the position of the adjective in English is before the noun, and the function of the adjective is to describe the noun. The house, the big house. Okay, so it sounds simple, but it is important, especially at the beginning. And compared to Spanish and compared to Portuguese, the position of the adjective is different in other languages. So this is the reason it's important. We have the idea of countable and uncountable. So in relation to a noun, is it possible to count the noun? Bottle, one bottle, two bottles, three bottles. But water, is it possible to count water? One water, two waters? No, not exactly. So water is uncountable and bottles are countable. And this is important in relation to how much and how many. So when it's possible to count, we say how many bottles, how many pens. But when it's impossible to count, uncountable, we use how much water, how much time, how much chocolate, how much money, how much energy. So there's a lot of nouns that are important in countable and uncountable. Comparative and superlative is an important structure as well in relation to the adjective. This room is cold, but the other room is colder than this room, but the other room is the coldest room. So we have structures in relation to adjectives when you compare and when one is the best. So that's very, very important as well. Adverbs. The function of the adverb is to describe the verb. So that we have a lot of verbs, to eat, to drink, to go, but we have the adverb to describe the verb. And typically the adverb is after the verb. I drink quickly, I talk slowly. So the adverb typically ends in ly. So this is a very important area and we use adverbs all the time. Modal verbs are a particular group of verbs that we use in particular situations. So for example, can is used for ability and for permission. I can enter the room, it's permission. I can go to the party, it's permission. Also ability, I can play the guitar, I can contact my friend. Ability, and permission. Could, may, and might are possibilities, and they are very, very similar. Probably may and might are more formal and more polite, but they're typical in situations for options and possibilities. I could go to the cinema. I might contact my friend. I may look at this book. Possibilities and options. Shall is usually a substitution for will in the question. Shall we contact your friend? Shall we watch the football match? It's a question, more formal, and basically the substitution is will. The other two are very typical in situations for recommendation and situations for advice. So my advice to you, you should contact your friend, you should watch this movie, you should read this book. And the significance of should is the same as the more advanced verb ought to. So the G is silent and the pronunciation is difficult. You ought to watch this book, you ought to contact your friend. It's again situations for recommendation and advice. Must is obligation. You have no choice. It's a necessity. You have to watch this, and must is the same as have to. You must watch this movie. You must contact your friend. You must eat the food. It's obligation. So modal verbs are very, very important. The big rule with modal verbs. Our modal verbs are before another verb, but the next verb typically we eliminate to. You can, go, might, have, should, contact. That's correct. The error, can to contact, because we need to eliminate to. That's the rule for the modal verb. Prepositions are massive. Prepositions are really a big part in English. We use prepositions so frequently in relation to direction. I travel to Italy. I look at the television. I look at the person. So for direction, for movement, I run through the forest. I run across the road. So direction, also for movement and position. So the book is in my hand, under, over, beside, in front of. So prepositions are very important. Also in relation to phrasal verbs, prepositions combine with the verb to make one literal significance, but also a frequent second significance. And that's a big part of phrasal verbs, the prepositions. So they are very important. We have maybe 150 prepositions approximately in English, so they're a big part of English. This area, the next area, possessive adjective, possessive pronoun, or the object pronoun, is a little technical, but basically it's important you are clear with the difference between my bottle, your bottle, his bottle, her bottle, our bottle, or the bottle is mine, the bottle is yours, the bottle is his, masculine, the bottle is hers, feminine, or give the bottle to me, give the bottle to you, give the bottle to him, masculine, or to her, feminine, especially his, her, his, hers, or him, her in the different categories are so important. The difference between this, that, these, and those is simple, but it's a frequent error. Basically, this is position here, this pen, that pen, position away, singular, these pens, plural, here in the position, and those pens, plural, in a different position. So that area is very important. Similarly, the difference between another, other, the other, and the others is important, and during the class I try to identify this topic. Creation of the question is a big area in English. How do you create the question in English? And that's a topic in relation to grammar. One day I will explain more about creating the questions in a webinar of related to grammar on Mondays. Okay, suffixes and prefixes is a big area, and my big recommendation is you should be familiar with prefixes and suffixes when you are studying English, because they give you a big indication of the form of the verb or the noun or the adjective. Is the word a noun? Is the word adjective? Is the word a verb? So the suffix is a big indicator in relation to this. I recommend definitely that you maybe focus on this topic. Conjunctions and linkers are very important to make English cohesive, to make English more fluent, and to make it more connected. Linkers are a big part of English. We have some simple linkers, but we also have more advanced linkers. For example, furthermore, however, moreover. Okay, maybe however is a bit in the middle, but we have some more advanced linkers, and that's a big part of English as well, especially as you progress to a higher level. Vocabulary. So of course, if you want to improve specific vocabulary, the big recommendation is that you read books, read magazines, read news, read everything that you can. The more you read, the better. So reading is a big part of English, especially to improve your vocabulary. The second area is grammar. You should study grammar. You should have a book, or you should have a website in relation to grammar that you can focus on. Two websites that are very good in relation to grammar are the British Council and the Cambridge website for grammar. They are very important in relation to grammar. Reading, writing is an important ability, an important skill. Some people need writing for their professional jobs, and in English this is a big activity, a big skill, and I recommend that you practice regularly your writing, and somebody hopefully can correct you. Listening is a big part. You need to listen to different sources of English, the radio, the television, but more importantly, the best way to practice your listening is to interact with different people when you speak English. That's the best way. And finally, I think speaking. So they're the 5 areas that are very important. Exams. So Cambridge exams are very popular. The IELTS exams are very unpopular, and I have specific webinars dedicated to preparation for exam-specific groups of classes. And today, after this class, we continue with a class dedicated to the first certificate level B2 in English. You are welcome to attend. Contact me after the class and I can give you the link details to join the group. Okay, so they are the most important sections in relation to the introduction. Now I want to show you this story. Okay, so this is a news story, a typical news story about a volcano. I think that happened yesterday, and here is the title: the volcano erupts in southern Caribbean, sparking evacuation frenzy. So very difficult vocabulary. So this is the story from April 9th and approximately 5 hours ago. So maybe you are familiar with this story, but maybe not. And I want to read the vocabulary first, and after I read for pronunciation, we can return in relation to examining the vocabulary and examining the grammar. So that's the intention, that's the plan. I hope the connection is okay. Again, we've had some problems this week, so fingers crossed it does not interrupt this explanation. And if it does, I apologize and I will try to find a solution. But let's begin. So Rose Hall, St. Vincent and the Grenadines, La Soufrière volcano on the eastern Caribbean island of St. Vincent erupted on Friday after decades of inactivity. Okay, sending dark plumes of ash and smoke billowing into the sky and forcing thousands surrounding villages to evacuate. So normally I identify and highlight the key grammar issues, and you can see me highlighting the words, and there is a reason I highlight the words, because they are the most important vocabulary or the most important grammar topics. Dormant since 1979, the volcano started showing signs of activity in December, spewing steam and smoke and rumbling away. That picked up this week, prompting Prime Minister of St. Vincent and the Grenadines, Ralph Gonsalves, to order an evacuation of the surrounding area late on Thursday. Early on Friday, it finally erupted. Ash and smoke plunged the neighbouring area into near total darkness, blotting out the bright morning sun, said a Reuters witness who reported hearing the explosion from Rose Hall, a nearby village. And finally, smaller explosions continued throughout the day. Eurosia Joseph, director at the University of West Indies Seismic Research Centre, told Reuters, adding that this kind of activity could go on for weeks, if not months. Okay, and that's sufficient for the moment just to practice a little pronunciation. It's also important for you to read, so for this reason it's a good activity during the class. Now I will look at the vocabulary. So obviously the volcano is the specific vocabulary in relation to the part of the land. So the volcano, I think it's similar in other languages. The verb to erupt is typical, and let me share my screen because I want to show you the vocabulary on the right. So the verb is to erupt, and we can use the verb to erupt in maybe a metaphor in relation to an argument or a disagreement or a fight. So you could say an argument erupted at the party, and that means an argument started at the party. And yes, I suppose it's typical, and yes, it's common. So erupt is typical for the volcano, but also it's typical as a metaphor in other situations. Okay, the noun is an eruption, and that is important as well, just for the vocabulary. So the verb is to erupt, and the noun is an eruption. Here, it's the present simple. So I erupt, you erupt, he erupts. So the third person, normally in the present simple, frequently we add an S. For example, I go, you go, he goes, she goes. So normally we add an S in relation to the third person. Here, it's not masculine, it's not feminine. The volcano is no gender, so we use the person, the pronoun it. Okay, in Southern Caribbean, so south is the noun, the south, the north, but when you add the suffix ERN, it becomes the adjective. Southern, northern, eastern, western. So the suffix ERN contributes and creates the adjective. Sparking is brilliant vocabulary. Okay, so the typical noun is a spark, and in Espanol, I think it's a chispa. So when you have two stones, okay, two stones, and you rub the stones like this, like the Flintstones, like the cavemen, you have the stone and you create a spark. Okay, so a spark is this context, but the creation is to spark an argument, to spark a debate. So this is really, really advanced and really good conversation, good vocabulary. So to spark a debate has the significance that this action creates the debate, or this action creates the conversation, or it creates the argument. So it's really flexible and it's really good. Also, we can say he or she is a bright spark, and the significance is this person is very bright and very intelligent and very clever and very talented. So in school, if this person is a bright spark, they are very intelligent and very, very quick. So that's really good vocabulary and very flexible. Maybe for a cigarette, you can say to light up a cigarette, or you can say to spark up a cigarette, possibly. Okay, but it is flexible and we use it in lots of situations in English. And here, the significance is creating. So the volcano sparked the evacuation. So the verb is to evacuate. That's the infinitive, to evacuate, and the noun is evacuation. So again, the importance of the suffix is very important when you change from the verb to the noun, to the adjective, to the adverb. And here, evacuation is the noun and the verb is to evacuate. Frenzy is the noun and it's very advanced vocabulary, really, really good English, very colourful, very dramatic, and it's like mayhem or chaos. Okay, so if you are in a frenzy, that means it's a panic, like a crazy situation. And for the COVID, of course, for the pandemic at the beginning, everybody was in a frenzy because everything was disorganized. People were traveling, people were rushing in a rush. Okay, so a frenzy is very, very good vocabulary. And of course, the evacuation is chaotic, and it's a synonym, chaotic, in relation to a frenzy. So really, really good noun. The adjective would be maybe frenzied, and it's very advanced and very, very fluent English. Good. And the first paragraph, and here with the preposition on in relation to the island. So we use on in relation to surfaces. So the wall, on the wall, the table, on the table, body, on the body, face, on the face, computer, on the computer. So typically for a surface, we use the preposition on. Here we have the preposition on in relation to the island. Okay. Number one, the pronunciation is silent. So the S is silent. The pronunciation is island. It's a typical error. People say island, but this is completely incorrect because in English the S is silent and the pronunciation is an island. Okay, and for the preposition you can say on the island because physically it's on the surface. Okay, so very, very interesting, very small detail, but very important. The verb is to erupt, and the ed is the typical creation of the past simple. To erupt, erupted. Ask, asked. Talk, talked. But unfortunately and incredibly in English we have a lot of irregular verbs in the past simple, but this is just one example of a regular verb, and typically to create the regular verb we add ed. On is typical for the day, on Monday, on Tuesday, on Wednesday. The month we say in January, in February, in March, but for the day we say on. Okay, so very, very important, the detail in relation to the prepositions. Most of you probably are familiar with this, but again, it's always important to refresh and to tell you again. After decades, 10 years of inactivity, so activity is the noun. You want to do an activity today, but if you have a lot of inactivity, that means no movement, no sport. Because of the pandemic, there is a lot of inactivity at the moment. It's the noun. The adjective is maybe inactive. So the difference between the adjective and the noun is very, very small. But when you learn English and when you speak very quickly, these little details are very important and very obvious when you confuse or when you make the error. So it's always important to pay close attention when you are reading in relation to the suffixes and in relation to the form of the word. Okay, sending dark plumes So this is very, very advanced vocabulary. So maybe in relation to a feather, you have a feather, or a plume, I think could be like a feather. In Espanol, I think pluma, typical for the birds and the animals, have the feather. Okay, so in English we say a feather, and a plume I think is almost the same, but this is in relation to smoke. So you can see the picture, and this type of smoke, the plumes are the movement, and the description of the shape of the smoke is a plume. Very, very specific vocabulary, very advanced, and very appropriate, of course, for this situation. But a feather is typical the material of the bird. So the wing, ala, the wing of the bird has a lot of feathers. Your jacket has a lot of feathers. Your pillow at night when you sleep, your pillow has a lot of feathers. We have an expression, we say light as a feather, and that means you are obviously the same weight as a feather, so really, really light, and good vocabulary for sure. So as light as a feather is a famous expression, and a plume is maybe related obviously to this specific situation. Ash is typical with a cigarette. When you smoke a cigarette, obviously not, maybe not good, but when you smoke the cigarette, the end of the cigarette that disintegrates, this is the ash. Okay, when the person dies and the people cremate or burn the body, when the person dies, the body transforms to ash. Okay, and there's a famous expression, we say from ashes to ashes, and that means you begin at the beginning as material, as ash, and at the end you live your life and you die and you turn to ash. So from ashes to ashes is a famous expression. As I said, cigarette ash is very important, and also in relation to the cigarette we have the ash tray. So when you go to the bar, when you go to the pub, typically outside it's necessary to have a cigarette, but the object that you use to collect the dirt from the cigarette is the ash tray. Okay, so very specific vocabulary as well. Smoke, so billowing, again, very, very specific and very appropriate vocabulary in relation to this situation. To billow is specifically related to smoke, and again, it will be the action of this smoke going very fast and going very dramatically. So to billow is the fast movement of smoke. Very specific vocabulary, very advanced, very appropriate in this situation, and probably only used in this situation. Okay, into is the preposition for direction into the sky, so it's movement and direction together. So for example, I walk in to the room, so it's actually movement and it's direction at the same time. Into. Forcing, thousands, so of course 1,000 is un mille in Espanol, and of course you need to be clear, 100, 1,000 and 1,000,000. So just to explain very, very briefly the difference in English, because a lot of people confuse. So this is 100 and the other one is 1,000. So I'm just going to fix my spelling. 100, 1,000, and the third example is 1,000,000. So of course, very important, very big part of English, the numbers, and this is the same example: 100, 1,000, 1,000,000, and here it's plural, thousands from, so forcing the people from surrounding villages to evacuate, no problem. In the next sentence, we have the next paragraph, we have 2 or 3 brilliant expressions again, and some really advanced vocabulary. The first expression maybe is signs of activity. So when you try to contact your friend and there is no answer, you are searching for your friend, you are looking for your friend, you try to contact your friend, but there's no contact. Instagram, there's no action. Facebook, there's no action. So you are worried about your friend. So there are no signs of activity. So it's metaphor in relation to people when they show they are living. So here it's just a simple expression, but it is very typical. The month is the preposition in. Spewing is the very, very difficult vocabulary. Okay, so the verb is to spew, and it's very specific vocabulary, very appropriate for this situation, and it's the specific vocabulary for the volcano, like the eruption in general, but the lava, the fire, spews. Okay, and that's a metaphor in relation to vomit. So it is possible to say if you are spewing, that means vomiting. Okay, so it is a to vomit. And very, very important, maybe you can use this as a metaphor in they are speaking nonsense or speaking rubbish. So for example, if I am speaking rubbish, if I'm speaking nonsense, I am spewing and spewing and spewing. So it's flexible, it's advanced, but it is very, very interesting as well. And here it's very appropriate for the volcano, spewing steam. Maybe if somebody's very angry and they are furious, they are spewing, but not really. As I said, it's more typical in vomit when you are sick, to throw up. That's another phrasal verb. To throw up has a significance to vomit. Okay, steam is important, and vocabulary very specific in relation to water and the kettle. Okay, so we have the kettle is the object that you boil the water, and when you boil the water it creates steam. Okay, of course you have a steam engine, and maybe informal you can say I am steaming, and that has the significance that you are very, very angry. Okay, so there is a possibility informal that the significance is you are very, very angry. So this man is steaming, this man is very, very angry, or this woman is steaming. Maybe this is a possibility informal to be very, very angry, but it's flexible. As I said, steam engine. Yeah, and we have another expression as well, to do it on your own steam. Okay, so this is a little tricky. So maybe to win the match, to win the competition, to get the job, to find a new job on your own steam is the significance, your own work, because the steam engine is the engine to work. But if you do something on your own steam, the significance is you did it yourself with no help, your work only. Okay, it's different from self-esteem, which sounds exactly the same, but the spelling is different. So you have steam and self-esteem, which is your feeling about yourself. So very interesting, very similar sound, but significance is different. Here, another brilliant vocabulary. So spewing steam and smoke and rumbling away. So in relation to the volcano is rumbling, and that's very, very appropriate, but we use it in other situations as well. And the verb is to rumble. The best example is your stomach. Okay, so your stomach is rumbling when you are very hungry. If you are very, very hungry and the noise your stomach makes, your stomach is rumbling. Like, it's impossible to make the sound, but you know the sound when you're very hungry and your stomach rumbles. So the verb to rumble is very interesting. Also, we have an expression, rumble in the jungle. So a rumble is also another word for an argument or a fight, probably a physical fight. So if you have a rumble, it's a lot of noise because it's like a fight. And the famous expression in the past in sport, in boxing, the rumble in the jungle was the name of the fight in relation to Muhammad Ali and another boxer, maybe Joe Frazier. So the boxing in the jungle, which was the name of the fight in this part of the world. But a rumble is a word we use today in relation to a fight or argument. So it is possible as well. But as I said, your stomach is rumbling. The significance is making a noise. And in this context with the volcano, it's exactly the same. The volcano is making the noise. And we use the preposition here, away, with the significance to continue. Okay, because we say to work away, which means to continue working, because the football match is on and everybody's watching the football, but you are working away. So you continue to work while something is happening. Okay, so speed, the velocity has picked up to increase. Prompting, this is very, very advanced vocabulary and very, very important to prompt. Okay, and it's like to make me. So watching the television, watching this interview, a famous celebrity have an interview on the television, you watch the television, you watch the interview, and this interview prompts you to do some action, prompts you to tweet, so it makes you. So it's more advanced, to make me. So the advertisement for chocolate, the advertisement for the chocolate cake prompts me to go to the shop. So the advertisement for the chocolate cake makes me go to the shop. And we also have a teleprompter, which is very famous. And this is for the television channel, for the celebrity, for the news reader, the person who reads the news. For example, if it's me reading the news at 6 o'clock, I say, good evening, and today's news is, and at the same time, I have the screen that gives me the information. So this screen with the information, with the text, prompts me to explain the news. So a teleprompter is the screen, plantilla, the screen to give me the vocabulary to give. So a teleprompter is very particular vocabulary in relation to the industry of television. Okay, but the verb to prompt is very, very famous and very good. So here, prompting the Prime Minister. So the significance is almost making or forcing the Prime Minister and the Grenadines, so this to order an evacuation. Okay. In the next paragraph, we have a very good word here, to plunge, and I think we have explained this before, but I will explain again. The verb to plunge is to drop, and it's very typical for the temperature. When the temperature plunges, the temperature drops dramatically. When the price plunges, the significance is the price drops. So it's more advanced. It's a synonym in relation to drop, but it's more advanced vocabulary and very, very good. In the bathroom, we have a plunger. So the object you use in the bathroom when the toilet is blocked. So after a big party, or after something, obviously, the toilet is blocked, and the object we use to clear the toilet is a plunger, because it's this action. You move up and down, so it's to drop. So a plunger is this specific object, but as I said, in relation to temperature, at the moment, today in Dublin, the temperature is very, very cold, and the temperature has plunged, so it has dropped. We have another expression. To take the plunge is in relation to a decision. When you make a big decision, a big commitment, for example, to buy a new television, which is very expensive, to buy a new car, it's a big decision, a big commitment. So you take the plunge and you commit. So it's very, very typical. Another example is a plunge pool, and this is typical in the gymnasium. Excuse me, it's typical in the gym and the sports center or the leisure center. You have the swimming pool, you have the jacuzzi, you have the sauna, and you have the plunge pool. So the plunge pool is typically the area of water, very small, really, really, really cold water. You enter the plunge pool after the exercise and you feel fantastic. So the plunge pool is very, very important. We have another verb, to lunge, which is completely different context. To lunge is like to jump, and it's like very aggressive jump, but it could be physical. If you lunge at a person, it could be like to attack. So there is another verb, to lunge, which means maybe to jump or to throw yourself at. Very specific and very, very good. So good. And here the smoke plunged the neighborhood in area into darkness. So it maybe put the area into darkness very dramatically and very quickly. Okay, so dark is the adjective and darkness is the noun. Very, very interesting. This is very, very difficult vocabulary. Blotting out, but it's very advanced and very good. So we say a blot on your notebook, and the significance is related to the pen. So the ink, the tinta, in relation to the boli. So la tinta en relación al boli, cuando tienes un pequeño mancha de tinta, es posible para. Okay, and it's maybe a metaphor in relation to your reputation. So if you have a clean reputation, the company has a clean reputation, the industry, the organization has a clean reputation, very good reputation, but they have one bad moment, one bad situation, and this bad moment is a blot on the notebook. It's like a stain, or it's like mancha in Espanol. But here, to blot out is to block out. So it's very similar in this situation to block. It's more advanced, it's very creative, it's very, very proficient English, very fluent, but of course it's necessary that you use it appropriately and that you use it very specifically and in the correct area. So really good vocabulary. And here, a witness, I think, is a testigo. So if you see the incident, you see the problem, you see the bad situation, you witness the problem. So the verb is to witness, and the person is a witness. Okay, so very, very important. In Espanol, testigo, I think. Okay, the bright morning sun, said the witness who reported hearing the explosion. Nearby is a preposition in relation to close and near, and it's exactly the same. Close to, near to, and you can say nearby. So, for example, I live in the city centre and the suburbs are nearby, or the sea is nearby, or the ocean is nearby. Okay, and I think you can hear my dog starting to bark. But remember the vocabulary from my dog. The verb is to bark, but he does not bark, he howls. So the verb to howl, because he is a husky, you can hear him. I think a little bird is distracting him on the roof. So I'll continue. The next word is very important, throughout. Okay, so smaller explosions continued throughout the day. This is a really, really important word. And the significance means during all. So throughout the day is a beautiful song. Do you know that song? So throughout the day, throughout the week, throughout the year has a significance during all. Okay, and you can say throughout my career, which means during all my career. Throughout the day, it means during all the day, throughout the year, throughout the month. Very, very important. Of course, the preposition through is a través. Okay, so that's really, really important. But we have another word which is very, very important. It looks exactly the same, but it's completely different. We have another word, thorough, which is very advanced, and that means a complete. So if you have a thorough investigation and a thorough exam, the significance is a complete or a total investigation. Or if you visit a doctor and they give you a thorough examination, it's like a complete or a total examination. So very, very similar in the spelling, but completely different in the significance. Okay, so thorough and through, completely different. And we have one expression. You can say, I thoroughly enjoyed the holiday. And that means I completely enjoyed the holiday. I had a fantastic time and I enjoyed every part of the holiday. I enjoyed every moment of the holiday. I thoroughly enjoyed the holiday. So that's the adverb with the ly, and it's very, very advanced and really, really good. Okay, and in this paragraph, I don't think there's a big problem with anything. The person at the university, so for a specific location, I am at the university, but I am in the university. So there's two possibilities and they're very, very typical. So at is for a specific location. I am at the cinema. I am at the restaurant. But in is just inside. And for the university, it's very similar. If you're at university, it could be physical location, but it could also be you are attending university. So you are at university or you are in university, are a little flexible. But basically the difference between at is for location and in is just inside. Okay, told. So again, the small distinction between to say and to tell. So to say, we normally use the preposition to. So this is really, really important. I say in general, but I say to you for direction. But tell, it's not necessary direction because tell is direct. So you tell me, so no preposition necessary because the significance of the verb to tell is direct already. And finally, we have the modal verb, could. It's a possibility, it's an option. So this kind of activity, this type of activity, this sort of activity is the possibility. It could go on, has a significance to continue. So this is the class. I give my explanation and I go on and go on and go on. I continue, I continue, I continue. So go on has a significance to continue, and could is the possibility. It's a possibility. It's not definite. It possibly could continue for weeks, if not months. Excuse me. Okay, so that's really good. That's a very, very good explanation for one article. Very advanced, very, very good quality English, really good quality vocabulary. And this is the typical method. This is the typical structure to read for pronunciation and then to continue with the analysis in relation to vocabulary and in relation to grammar. So I'm very happy because that's a lot of vocabulary, a lot of grammar, and very realistic situation, very real English, and very, very important. Okay, now I will show you some phrasal verbs. So this is a list of phrasal verbs, and remember the rule for the phrasal verb is the verb plus a preposition that creates a second significance that's completely different, but also it's possible one direct literal significance. And here you can see verb, preposition, verb, preposition, verb, preposition. And yesterday we stopped with the phrasal verb to save up, which has the same significance really, to save. The significance is to accumulate. So you save a lot of money or you save up a lot of money. And remember, the significance with the preposition is usually associated with emotion and sentiment, and up is accumulation. So for this reason, it's perfect to save up. See, okay, so we have 1, 2, 3, 4 phrasal verbs here in relation to see. So let me see a few examples. To see on, no. To see out, yes. This is one, and it's famous, it's frequent, it's typical, and the significance is to fully complete. Okay, so for example, this is April and you are in university. Typically, university is September until May. Okay, but your first year in university, you are not happy and you want to leave the course, you want to leave university. So it's December and you need to make your decision, but you decide to continue. So you decide to see out the year, you decide to see out the course. That's a very typical phrasal verb. The significance is to fully complete. It's typical with a contract. You have a contract and the contract is until next year, but you are unsure. And finally, you decide to see out the contract, to complete the contract. Very, very typical, very common, and very good example of a phrasal verb. To see off, yes, this is typical as well. And the significance is when you say goodbye to somebody. So your friend visits your house, they have tea, they have coffee, they have some food in your house, and at the end you accompany your friend to the door because you see them off. Okay, so to see someone off is to accompany somebody to say goodbye. In the airport, if you travel to the airport with your family accompany you to the airport and everybody says goodbye, so they see you off. Okay, because on and off is typical for travel and for movement. So to see off, maybe to see someone off, is to accompany and then say goodbye. Also, it could be to finish. So in the context of dinner and chocolate, so we have a big chocolate cake with the family and everybody has one piece of chocolate and at the end everybody is full. Nobody wants more, but there is more chocolate left and you, well not you, me, because I like the chocolate, so I decide to see off the chocolate, and the significance in this case is to complete or to finish. Okay, so a little similar, but a bit difficult as well. Okay, so to see off the food maybe is to finish. Not exactly typical, but just an interesting possibility. See back, no. See under, no. See through is very, very famous. Really, really famous. Okay, so for example, this t-shirt. Okay, this t-shirt is transparent. Imagine this t-shirt is transparent, or this shirt the personality or the character has the appearance, okay, maybe very friendly, maybe very happy, maybe very nice. The appearance is very happy of the character, but you have a doubt because you think the real person is maybe not nice. So this, if this face is maybe fake and it's false, and you see through the person. So to see through somebody is to see the real character that exists behind maybe the face. That's very, very famous. It's also typical with an action. So if I try to sell you English classes, I say, okay, today we have a webinar. It's a fantastic webinar, the best webinar. You will learn a lot, but you don't believe me and you see through my act because you think in reality the webinar is terrible. obviously a bad example for me, but to see through someone or to see through something is to, I think, fantasma in Espanol, to see the real person or to see the truth. Okay, very, very famous. Also, to see through is the same as I said here, to see out. So to see out is like to fully complete. That's the phrasal verb significance. But remember, number one, it could be literal. So at the moment, I am in the room and I can see out the window. I can see out the window, so it's literal. But number two is to complete or to finish, and see through is exactly the same in relation to the university. So you want to see through the year, you want to see through the course, you want to fully complete the course. So very, very famous. Like a commitment, you have the commitment and you promise to see through the commitment. Very, very good examples of phrasal verbs. So the verb to see is very flexible with prepositions to create phrasal verbs. They are the most typical: see in, see on, no, and here they say see off, as I said. The example, the explanation is to say goodbye to someone at the beginning of the trip. Exactly the same explanation. So did you see your sister off at the train station? Did you say goodbye? The other one is see through, finish something. So it is difficult. The course, the university is difficult, but you want to see out the course or see through. And here, are you going to be able to see your studies through now that you have a baby? Really good example. Here, they have two more, and this is typical. To see to is very famous, very simple. We use it all the time very quickly. And for example, I have work to do. I have a lot of work, accumulation of work, and I need to see to my work. That means I need to address or I need to do my work, okay? To address my work, to deal with your work, okay? So to see to my work means I need to deal with my work. I need to start my work. Typical in the doctor, if you visit the doctor, and of course the doctor, you need to wait for the doctor, and the doctor says, I will see to you in 10 minutes. I will see you in 10 minutes, but I will see to you in 10 minutes. It's specifically to start the activity or to start the work. We have a problem in the house. We have an electric problem or an electric problem, and we need the electrician to see to the problem, to start dealing with the problem. Very, very famous. And here, it's to make sure something happens. And here's the example. I'll see to it. So a bit complicated in English, but I will see to it, like the situation, that Mr. Ramirez will get the message. So I will make sure, I will make certain, I will guarantee. That's a good expression and a good example. I will see to it that Mr. Ramirez gets your message. Okay. Finally, there is another possibility to see somebody about. So to see somebody about something. So for example, I need to see my friend about his dog. I need to see my friend about his computer. So I need to visit, I need to meet your friend in relation to a topic. And here's the example. My dad said he was going to see about buying a car. So here, the significance is he was going to investigate, he was going to check, he was going to research in relation to this example to buy the car. So they're the most typical phrasal verbs, I think, with the verb to see. And we continue maybe the next day in relation to the verb to sell. But this is a good list because it's alphabetical and they explain little examples in relation to different verbs. And today it was just the verb to see. And they're very typical expressions. And I think that's sufficient. So today we had the introduction in relation to grammar. We also looked at the article in relation to vocabulary and also grammar connected in reality. And then finally, we continued with the list of the phrasal verb list. And you can see the notes here. I will put the notes on the Facebook page below the comments in the video, and you can see all the material during the day. Remember, everything is free. I hope we had no problem with the connection, because this week the connection has been very weak and a little bit bad. So fingers crossed the connection was okay. Remember, in the morning we have the speaking class at 9 o'clock, and now it's the free class. Everything is free. It's a good opportunity for me to grow online, and it's a good opportunity to know new people in this respect. Also, it's a good opportunity for me to reconstruct my work after the pandemic, because a lot of changes affected everybody's work. So for me, it's exactly the same. It's my job. And if you want to leave a little tip, if you are happy and you want to make a small contribution, there are maybe three ways that are very typical. The first possibility is through the bank. You need the IBAN number and the BIC. And if you want to make a small donation of maybe €1 or €2, that would be very, very good for me. And thank you to everybody who has supported me already. It's a big help. The second possibility is the application Revolut, and you need the telephone number to make the small donation. And finally, Bizum is the application in Spain that's very popular. And they're the three typical ways to do it. It would be a big help if you can do that, and I would appreciate it. Thank you. And remember, today at 1 o'clock now, we will begin very soon the webinar in relation to the exam, the B2 first certificate. So that's the plan for today. After this class, we continue with another class in relation to the B2 English certificate. If you want to join, just send a message, and I can give you the details to participate. Okay, so that is today. I think we have 2 people confirmed at the moment, and you are welcome to join. Okay, finally, if you want to connect on social media, there's the Instagram page, there's the Twitter page, and there's the YouTube channel with all the same material. And normally on YouTube, I upload the full class after the Facebook class. So that's it. So again, thank you so much for watching. Thank you for participating. And if you want to continue next week, it's possible on Monday. The plan is to begin the chatting class Monday morning at 9 o'clock. And also on Monday, we continue with the free class at 11:15, and also the webinar on Monday at 4 o'clock in relation to grammar. And that's the plan. So thank you for a great week. A lot of good work this week. And I hope you have a very good weekend. Enjoy your Saturday and have a very good evening. And take care. And I hope everyone's keeping